methodology of HACCP, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Points, presents 7 principles that guarantee the food safety. To improve the way of working, it is important that you pay attention to all of these principles.
The first principle is called the list of potential hazards.
As indicated by name, there are some dangers that the HACCP methodology can predict, and they may occur if we are not careful. This is because the food, from the time it is generated to the time of serving, may be contaminated depending upon how we follow the steps of all these processes.
Here are 4 potential dangers to food safety: microbiological, animals, chemicals, and physical. Let us know about these dangers in detail. Microbiological: fungi, parasites, and bacteria which cause disease. Animals: rats, flies, and other insects that can transmit diseases. Chemicals: residues of detergents and other cleaning products. Physical: glass, stone, sand, hair, etc.
Bacteria present a great danger of contamination. The kitchen is a place where there is temperature, humidity, acidity, food and time, which unfortunately create perfect conditions for bacteria to multiply.
So, it is important to ensure that we do not help bacteria to multiply in our kitchens.
Now, let us understand more about hazards, and let us go to the second principle of HACCP, defining critical control points. Critical control points, known as CCPs, are parts of the kitchen processes that need to be monitored closely so that the food safety is preserved.
You can avoid certain dangers in some points of the process. These dangers can be reduced to a very low level or even be eliminated completely.
The secret to ensure food safety is to identify these points in the process. As we already saw, there are 3 hazards: microbiological danger, the chemical danger, and physical danger. Within the second principle of HACCP, we see 5 points which must be monitored closely as they may impact food safety: suppliers, delivery, storage, preparation, and service. Let us see monitoring examples for each of these 5 points. Are the suppliers working according to HACCP? Are you aware of these details upon the receipt of merchandise storage? For how long, under what conditions are the products stored? Under what kind of environment the food is prepared and what types of materials are used? From the preparation to the time of consumption, what are the critical points?
Principle number 3. Set critical limits for each critical control point.
As we saw, our objective to eliminate hazards is to reduce them to the lowest level. Each critical control point has a different level of risk. That is what you can accept. We may consider the lowest level, and in fact it would be the highest level. That is why we call it dangerous. Let us see the conditions we call acceptable.
Let us think, for example, the supply of fresh meat and try to determine the critical limits with the help of a few questions. Is the way of packing the product acceptable? An open package is acceptable. Exposed meat? No. Is the way of moving the product acceptable? It is acceptable if done in an enclosed and refrigerated vehicle. In a vehicle that leaves the food outdoors? No. Is the temperature of products when delivered acceptable? Refrigerated is acceptable. If it's at room temperature? No. Is the product expiry date acceptable? If there are some days between the delivery date and the expiry date, yes. If the product expires on date of delivery, no.
Now we know when a situation is considered acceptable, we must see how to control the situation. The fourth principle is determining how to monitor the critical control points.
How can we ensure these critical limits will not be exceeded?
Here are some methods to monitor the critical control points. Monitor and record the temperature, for example during cooling or frying. Check the processing and expiration dates of products by taking notes. Check the cleanliness of workplace equipment and the hygiene of employees. Observe and test the working methods of staff.
The management of monitoring is easy. Now you need to know how to fix any problem noticed during the monitoring. The fifth principle is determining corrective actions for each critical control point.
If a problem is identified in the previous step, what are the next steps to ensure food safety?
Here are some possible corrective actions. Improving the workplace environment, i.e. cooling efficiency. Avoiding suppliers who are not following food safety rules. Improving cleaning methods. Changing your ways of working. For example, if you notice that dirty dishes are not separated properly from clean dishes, inform colleagues or employees and make the necessary changes so that it will not happen again. Providing additional training courses to staff.
The sixth work principle is verification and validation.
It is important to check from time to time if your kitchen is meeting the standards set by HACCP.
At the time of evaluation, the trick is to see with the eyes of someone from the outside or someone who is not part of the restaurant and find out where you can improve HACCP standards. For example, are there any new dangers after the purchase of a new machine? Are the critical control points showing real danger? Are the practice corrective actions still appropriate? It is important to understand that situations may change in a kitchen whenever there is new equipment, suppliers or manufacturers. The seventh and final principle is maintaining documentation and records.
The seventh principle states that everything must be written and documented throughout the action plan of HACCP. This will clarify the restaurant rules to everyone.
With proper documentation, you can prove that restaurant processes are monitored. Now you know the 7 principles of HACCP. Let us summarize. 1. List of potential dangers. 2. Definition of critical control points. 3. Definition of critical limits for each critical control point. 4. Determining how to monitor critical control points. 5. Determining the corrective actions for each critical control point. 6. Verification and validation. 7. Documentation and registration.